silver medalist of the 2018 Olympics in Pyeongchang, figure skater Alexander Enbert spoke about the conditions set by the International Olympic Committee, ANOC, for the return of Russian athletes to international competitions. On Tuesday, March 28, the ANOC recommended that international federations allow Russians who do not actively support the special operation and are not associated with the armed forces or security agencies to start as neutral athletes. In this case, we are talking only about individual athletes, not teams. Of course, participation in the World, European and Olympic Games remains a priority for most athletes. Athletes train for years, plow for a chance to get to the Olympics, for example. And here we are denied a flag and an anthem. It is important, of course, to be involved in your native country, but it is hard to imagine that someone would refuse for this reason. It is already good that they are trying to return us, even with such severe restrictions. Yes, this is unpleasant and wrong. There should be no discrimination in sports. I hope this is only the first step on the part of the ANOC. Then there should be a lifting of these restrictions. This is the work of our diplomats and officials. Alexander Julin. I don't even know what to say about this. At least somehow they allow it, and then I want to spit on everyone and not go anywhere. It's just that they're already so fed up that they mock us like some kind of guinea pigs. And who is mocking? We would look at ourselves. Transgenders are finished. In general, I'm upset, Julin said. Tatyana Avka. On the one hand, I am very happy for those athletes who can get the opportunity to take part in the Olympic Games. If this happens, we will root for all of our people at the Olympics and wish them all victory. On the other hand, this whole story, when politicians and officials interfere in such a sincere, honest and emotional sphere as sports, breaking the fate of athletes who invest their lives in health and sports, is simply wrong. I'm sure life will put everything in its place. This once again proves the desire of the West to wipe Russia off the face of the earth. But we will still root for our athletes and believe that justice will prevail. The International Olympic Committee has published the requirements for the equipment of Russian and Belarusian athletes who will participate in international competitions. The uniform of Russian athletes for participation in international competitions must be completely white or one color, the ANOC said in a statement. The head of the International Olympic Committee, ANOC, Thomas Bach, commented on his decision to recommend the admission of Russian and Belarusian athletes to international tournaments. I will clarify that we are not lifting the ban on Russia's participation in international competitions. We have issued a list of stringent requirements for the participation of Russia and Belarus for international federations that may want to return athletes from these countries. I will also clarify that the decree issued a year earlier was not a ban on Russia and Belarus. It was not the imposition of sanctions. It was a security measure that we had to take for two main reasons. First, a number of countries wanted to decide which athletes and in which competitions to take part without issuing visas, threatening athletes with suspensions, national federations with the termination of funding if they competed with Russians or Belarusians. Secondly, we could not guarantee that the hosts of international competitions would ensure the safety of Russians or Belarusians because of the very tense atmosphere. This compromised the integrity of international sports competitions. We had to issue a recommendation not to invite athletes from these two countries to international competitions in order to maintain the integrity of international sport. What has changed over the year and influenced the issuance of new recommendations? I can give many examples, but I will name two factors. We see that in a number of sports: tennis, cycling, hockey. This is already working. You see that athletes with Russian and Belarusian passports take part in international competitions. They even compete with Ukrainians. We see this almost every day, particularly in men's and women's tennis. Athletes receive visas. They are allowed to perform in the USA and other countries. There were no major security issues. We have discussed many times why this is possible in some sports and not in swimming, table tennis, wrestling, and so on. What is the difference? Secondly, we have reports from two experts on the protection of human rights. In particular, they emphasize that it is necessary to avoid the principle of punishing a person only for having one or another passport. We are guided by our charter and take into account these expert reports. Bach said at a press conference. Chairman of the State Duma Committee of the Russian Federation on Physical Culture and Sports Dmitry Shcherbakov spoke about the conditions for the participation of Russian athletes in international competitions, which were announced at the Executive Committee of the International Olympic Committee. Bach has repeatedly stated recently that he will protect the interests of all athletes. Here I immediately have a question for him. How do team sports athletes differ from individual sportsmen? I think the main problem is that they don't know how to represent our teams. What the ANOC is doing is unacceptable and illegal. Do we have a chance to compete at the next Olympics? The ANOC has driven itself into a difficult situation. They do not understand now how to behave. They are under pressure from all sides, pointing out political things. It can be seen that the ANOC is trying to shift all responsibility to the federations. I don't even know how they will get out of this situation. But the conditions they put forward are unacceptable to us, Shcherbakov said. Choreographer of the group Atari Tuperids Alexei Zheleznyakov. I am disgusting about this situation. I have already said that this is blackmail, manipulation, hypocrisy. We should not allow this either in sports or in culture, anywhere. Second cheek, then they will give us a slap on the back of the head, and after the slap we will be dipped in one latrine. This will go on increasing. I understand very well that the guys go all their lives to international competitions. But, unfortunately, now is a very difficult time. The most important thing is that we need to think about creating alternative organizations and alternative games of the same kind as the World Championships, the Olympic Games. It is necessary to create your own structure because blackmail and manipulation will occur constantly. Athletes should play for their country, which has a flag and an anthem, and not go out in white shorts, Zheleznyakov added. The Association of National Olympic Committees, ANOC, supported the position of the International Olympic Committee, IOC, on the admission of Russians. The autonomy of sport has been called into question, and it is essential that we remain united to defend this principle to ensure that international sports competitions welcome athletes from all countries. The statement and recommendations of the ANOC Executive Board dated March 28, 2023, on the complex issue of the participation of athletes with Russian and Belarusian passports in international competitions, confirm these principles, and further take into account the elements of human rights, the observance of which is crucial. We strongly support the position of the ANOC Executive Board, and will continue to work in the interests of the unity of the Olympic movement and athletes. The ANOC said in a statement.